Update today brought to you by Century 21 Affiliated. Happy October morning to you, Dan.
Happy October morning to you, I guess. Bill, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, I'm fired up.
Me too, me too.
There's a few signs that the real estate market's moving a little bit in the right direction. That's a good thing. Of course, we're always optimistic, aren't we?
We are, but as we talked about in past shows, the key of the rest of this year is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity.
Right.
And I think that's what we're faced with. I mean, there's so much out there and so many different angles of this real estate world that really the people out there looking for opportunities, you can find them.
Well, today perhaps our agenda could be getting back to where we left our show last week, which is talking about the move-up buyer, which is like an unbelievable opportunity, and actually see if we can verbalize, maybe you can help people verbalize the math of that. Then if we got lucky, we can move on to REOs, which is a real estate owned property, otherwise known as foreclosures, whatever. And then we can talk about short sales, which everyone sort of thinks they know about, but I'm not sure they really do.
Good. Yeah, let's do that, and especially in the whole REO and short sale world, I think one of the things we can really help the general listeners out there start thinking about is how does the process work? Is it the right thing for me to buy? I mean, there's great opportunities, but maybe the REO or short sale isn't always the right set for the right buyer. But let's get on the first topic first, move up buyers and the process involved in that. So one of the things we've talked about in past shows, and you and I have both verbalized to the agents out there as well as to the general public, is if you are in a situation of selling right now, there are so many good opportunities on the buying side that you need to look at the whole picture of the transaction. There's a transaction portion of you selling your property and then you moving to that next property to purchase it. And some sellers got to sit back and think, okay, well, even if I take a hit on the selling of my property, let's say I list the property, I get aggressive with the sales price, and I even lose $10,000 on the actual selling of my home. Nobody likes to lose money on the selling of their home, especially because it's such a personal transaction. But if you look at the other side of the transaction, I lose $10,000 on the sell, but I'm going to do a move-up buy. I can make up 50, 60, 70, depending on what that transaction looks like, on the purchase of a property. And with interest rates being as low as they are right now, the advantage of taking that small hit on the selling of your property and what you can make up on the buy side of the other side of that transaction, I mean, there's a great opportunity to make that happen.
It's a tough one because it's like playing the don't-come line at the craps table or doing a short sale in stocks. It's like you're betting, in a sense, you're betting against it, and it goes against the logic of what we've been taught money is all about.
Sure.
But you're absolutely right. So every home is but assessment. We use assessed value, but although, Dan, I think we both agree that assessed value often does not reflect market value.
100% agree.
It's like a crapshoot. Sometimes it does.
Well, it's for tax purposes and nothing else besides tax purposes.
And nothing against the assessors because they do the best job, but they're limited to assessment areas that aren't necessarily market areas.
Right.
Anyway, so your home may be assessed to 200. You may have to sell it for 165. However, there's a house out there that's assessed at 340 that you probably get for 275, and so you make $35,000. So you lose money to gain more money.
Right. Especially if you're in that interest rate scenario that we talked about in a previous show of, okay, let's have my current house at a 6% interest rate, and I purchase, now I get it at a 4% interest rate because they're extremely low right now. I mean, just what you're gaining also in that purchase, in that interest rate change is great.
Right. And last show we talked a little bit about the question of why people refinance rather than do that. I.e., they probably get more home for roughly the same amount of money, or they can refinance their home and have a lower payment. And people are into that hunker down, indecisive mode of sitting tight because they're unsure about the future because there's been a recession that's dragged out. There's been no bounce back of the recession. And if a person really feels that way, and if their hunker down is where they want to be, and that's more important to them than a better quality of life, then they should do that.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to be negative, that's what they should do.
Sure.
But
yeah, I agree with you. But if they look at the other side of it and say, I want to take advantage of these opportunities, and there's so much out there for them to do, and there's so much for them to gain in that scenario.
It really comes down to whether the homeowner or the move-up person feels is a glass half full, half empty in terms of the future of their and their family's economic status. Are they going to be as well off or better off tomorrow than they are today, or are they going to be worse off?
Right.
And America as a whole is like 60-40 better off, but it depends on where the individual family is. If you're one of those 60% that thinks you can be better off, then my gosh,
make the move.
Make the move.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
All right, so then the question's going to be, all right, let's say I'm one of these move-up buyers, and I'm going to list my property. What do I do? What if you were to sit down with somebody right now and say, I'm gonna list my property? What were the couple things you would tell them? What do you need to be prepared selling your house in this current marketplace?
Oh, great question. So, the old standards of what it takes to sell a house are still there, and there's a few new ones. So the old standards are, of course, that you price your home right, and you price it to sell as opposed to price to dicker or negotiate, because people will not dicker or negotiate if you price your home right.
Mm-hmm.
We've had many homes that have sold this year over listing price, initial asking price, because they were priced so well to begin with. So the buyer knows, because they've been doing like comparative shopping we talk about on the internet. They know what your home's worth. So don't list it at 200 when you want to take 180, because the buyer knows it's only worth 175 anyway.
Right.
Never mind.
And just to add on that, what we're finding right now, especially in the whole showing category, is when we first put a property on the market, they're getting a lot of activity out the chute. So, don't play the game of, I'm going to list it here, but you know what, I really know it's worth less, so I'm going to list it a little higher and then I can reduce down the road. You're much better off being aggressive from the get-go, because that's when you're going to get the best amount of showings, is right from the chute.
Price it right. Which leads to the second point, which is, we've always said you have your home in showable condition, and because you're going to often get your best buyers right away, you got to be ready right out of the chute. There is no dry run, trial run.
Right.
As soon as that hits the market, these buyers are going to be there.
Yep.
So make sure that your screen doors are painted and that the screen is good. Make sure that if you ever had an animal that nobody knows it, the odor's long gone. Make sure the grass is trimmed, that the bushes are cut, that the rooms are straight, that the beds are made, that the sink doesn't have rust stains on it, etc., etc., etc.
Declutter, neutral colors.
Right.
They want somebody to walk into your
Declutter.
house and be able to picture their belongings in that space.
Oh, Dan, you're so right. So you neutralize, you vanilla-ize your home.
Yes.
And so that the buyer can view it the way it is. If your carpeting is a little rough, put in new carpeting. Well, it might not be what the buyer wants. Well, they want something neutral so they can see themselves in it. If you got hardwood floors underneath, rip up that ugly carpeting and redo the floors and make it look nice.
Sure.
If you got leaky windows, fix the leaky windows.
Mm-hmm. Well, and part of the reason we're telling this to everybody is there's so much competition out there. Your house needs to jump out. It's got to pop to the person coming into them.
Pop. Yours pops. All right. So we're back to this whole scenario that price it right, which is less than you want for it.
Yep.
That's still not too bad. Make it so it pops when the people look at it. And meantime, you've negotiated a great offer on the other property.
Sure.
And you're probably better off waiting to negotiate on that second property until you got an offer on your first one.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like you don't want to wait around on an offer on your property for someone else to sell their house in Oshkosh, that other homeowner doesn't want to wait around for you to sell your home in Madison.
So let's paint that picture a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I've got my property listed, just got it onto the marketplace, we're getting a little bit of activity. All right, boom, I get an accepted offer. Now all of a sudden, I just go out there, I need to start looking, I got to get aggressive, and I got to find the property that I want, get that offer in right away, because I'm probably going to have a window there, right? I get an accepted offer on my place, and now I want to get something accepted on the place I'm going to be moving to.
Right. Couple things is that you certainly want to explore the market you'll be looking to before you even put your house on the market, and during the time it's on the market. So you want to know what's out there. All I'm suggesting is you don't make an offer subject to sell your house. You just wait.
So do all the smart things. Get pre-approved. Be ready to rock and roll with my loan. Know what the inventory is like out there, and be ready to move as my offer gets accepted on my current home. Be ready to move on that next one. Yep.
And if you're a move-up buyer, i.e. seller moving up to a different price range, that price range more likely is going to be softer than your price range, because it is a price range contingent softness in this marketplace. And that seller is going to probably be more likely than ever to accommodate your closing date, your occupancy date, and that historic fear, oh, I don't want to be homeless, I don't want to sell my house until I find someone else to live, because where am I going to live will be on the curb. It's not going to happen.
Right. Well, and you make a good point too. If I am negotiating in a position where I don't have to have it contingent upon my property selling.
Hey, you're a cash buyer, man.
Absolutely. You're in such a better position just to get all the price and terms that you really want.
Cash is king, contingency free. So you want to be in that position. So Again, this time of year, you go like, well, it's getting closer to the holidays, and, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. We'll see what spring's like. Well, all right, so will 5,000 other people.
Right.
So again, if a person wants that whole sense of urgency, historically, even before all this great recession stuff and the depreciation of home prices and weird markets, always was a great time to buy a house in October, November, December, because the sellers are even more depressed than ever.
Absolutely.
So this is the time to do it.
Absolutely. And once again, another point on the selling of your house is with competition and all that, going into some of these winter months, you got to price it right. You got to have it looking in the best condition, because those buyers that do come around, you need to grab onto them.
Right. Your car dealers out of town always used to say, drive a little and save a lot. Well, now it's really lose a little in your house and gain a lot in the next one.
Sure. Yep.
It really is the same concept. Hard one to sell. and I understand why people, I can't do it. I can't. My neighbor's loaded for whatever. I got to sell it for.
Well, and I think one of the things we'll talk about after the break that is really important in that whole process is, what is my competition looking like? And in two areas that we'll discuss is foreclosures and short sales, because they are competition, but you need to be aware of them. You know how to attack it.
Right. And we will try to explain in layperson's terms, as best we know, what the terms foreclosure, REO, short sales, and all that, what does that really mean?
Right.
So, as we wind down the first half of our Sunday morning show here on Madison 1670 WTDY, Dan, one last thought before break is, maybe you can think about this one. What is the number one strategy in getting an accepted offer on a steal, on a foreclosed property that really is a steal?
Okay.
Think about how are you going to do that? How are you going to beat everybody else out?
I will do that, and just a reminder, you can visit us and visit all these shows on our blog, our video blog, at www.century21affiliated.com.
www.century21affiliated, it's 2 F's and 1 L.
You got it. Well, even if you spell it wrong, I think we got those covered too.
We bought the other website for all of us that spell wrong. Those are the double consonants. All right, see you after the break.